Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Joshua. I'm going to be your presenter today. Welcome to our webinar on accounting chart of accounts revisions. We're going to be working together for about the next 20 minutes or so. Just a few things. We have a very short amount of time here to cover a pretty decent size amount of material. As always, we have a few things to go through before we get started here. On the control panel for the webinar, well, hopefully everybody can hear me okay. I'm not seeing anybody telling me they can't hear me, so hopefully my audio is coming through. On your control pane for the webinar, if you click the little red arrow at the top there, it minimizes the control panel for the webinar, gets it out of the way, minimizes it, what have you, or you can drag it off to a second desktop if you have a dual monitor setup. Get the full visual effect of the presentation here, so by all means, please do that. Second of all, again, we're going to be working for till 3:20 Eastern Time. Wherever I am, I'm going to stop what I'm talking about. In the interest of just being respectful of your time joining us today. Doesn't mean I'll be closing the room. I will be happy to stick around and answer questions for you, by all means. But if you do have to leave the webinar at 3:20, please click the File, Exit, Leave Webinar option. Thank you in advance so much for attending. Before we get started on the topic, I want to point out a few things here. At our website, churchwindows.com, there have been actually a number of changes to the website, and particularly the support section here down the left side. Please come in there and take a look at that down here. It may not appear like there are, but definitely there have been. Our webmasters made some changes to that section specifically, so you may want to take a few minutes and pay a visit to the website and take a look at those. Most notably, it's now called New Version Resources instead of the version 17 resources, and we still do have the support blog, two very, very helpful screens for Church Windows. And please, if you haven't been there before, please take a look at those pages. All right, let's go ahead and jump back over to Church Windows, the program here, and talk about our topic, accounting revisions, chart of accounts revisions. The chart of accounts, I've been doing this a long time, and so one of the things that I like to let folks know about is the chart of accounts is in Church Windows is pretty flexible and malleable. What I mean is it's going to evolve over a period of time. We get a lot of calls from users, who are just setting up their chart of accounts, and their interest is always to, get the chart of accounts right the first time. And, one of the things I try to encourage them to keep in mind is that we don't know until we begin to use the chart of accounts whether it's going to be suitable for us or not. It may be a month or 2 or 3 months into using it, issuing reports, printing reports, posting transactions, before we realize whether there's some changes that need to be made to the chart of accounts. And there are a variety of ways that we can make those changes and edits to the chart of accounts itself. And we're going to discuss a few of those, hopefully show you some new things today about that. Also, the annual maintenance of the chart of accounts. That's honestly, as a support technician who deals a lot with accounting issues, one of the things that I see on a regular basis every year is, I'll get a chart of accounts from a church or a user, and it'll be 25 pages long, and they're only actually using 10 pages of the accounts. So somebody hasn't gone through and deleted the chart of accounts or cleaned that up annually, getting rid of accounts they no longer need, adding accounts, new accounts that they're also wanting to add. One of the very important things that I like to mention about the deleting accounts is that, if I delete accounts in, say, my accounting year, January through December 2015, right here, okay, if I'm in that accounting year and that's the year that I'm deleting accounts, that does not delete those same accounts from the prior year, from earlier years. Let me state that again. Deleting accounts in the current year or in one particular accounting year does not delete or affect the same accounts in other accounting years. The end of year procedure is what separates one year's chart of accounts from the others and allows us essentially to have an entirely different chart of accounts from one year to the next if we so choose. Okay? So, One of the best things you can do to help help your chart of accounts feel like it's under control is to go in annually, maybe as soon as you open the new year, and go in and remove unwanted accounts. And I'm going to show you some of those features now. Deleting accounts, changes to the chart of accounts, whatever you decide to call it or however it is, depending on whether it's large or small. One of the most important things that I can mention to you, of course, is before you do this, folks, go into admin and click backup. Back up your data, okay? It's the only really undo you have if there's a problem. If you delete something you shouldn't have, or, a backup of your data, it just gives you peace of mind to be able to go in and make changes to your chart of accounts at will, knowing that you have an undo to the process, okay? So just help yourself. Go into the backup routine, make a backup of the data, and it's a very straightforward process. If you have questions about it, please call technical support. Myself or any of our other technicians are happy to help you with that, okay? Okay, so if we really start at a very basic use of, if you're really talking about some really simple changes to your chart of accounts, meaning you've got, say, 1 or 2 accounts that you need to add or edit or what have you, here we are at our window called Chart of Accounts. Again, I got there by going up to either Manage Accounts in View in the top left corner, or simply by clicking the Manage Accounts option in the middle left center there. And it opens up the Chart of Accounts. So one of the little known things is that if I come in here and I go, okay, I need to make a change to an account name, so if I go, okay, I want to put the word expense here under my expenses, I can just click right here in the account name field and just type in a change to the account name, right in the account name at the chart of accounts. A lot of folks don't know that. You can come right into the chart of accounts and edit any account name right there. Okay? Maybe somebody learned some new stuff on that today. Also, at the chart of accounts window, when we say highlight an account, so if I say choose my rental electric expense, and now I click the tab here in the top right labeled Tree View, everybody hopefully should see that right here, right below the account name. We see the Tree View tab, that if we click on the Tree View tab after choosing the account, it will then pre-select that account on the Tree View tab. All right, and if you simply right-click over the account, notice here it says Add Expense Account to General Operating Fund, or if we highlight that as case, or Edit Rental Electric. Okay, so one, it either allows me to add an expense to the General Operating Fund where my rental electric is linked or linked to, or it allows me to actually, like say in this case, click Edit Rental Electric. So when I right-click on that and choose Edit, it allows me both to either edit the name, just like I was doing at the chart of accounts, if I could spell correctly today, or I can even come in here and just edit the account number itself. Okay, so if I go, oh no, I don't want that rental electric expense account to be 900, I want it to be 902, I can notice I can come in here, edit that account number, simply click OK, and that immediately then changes that account number. As long as it allows me, the number that I'm wanting to change it to is not currently in use by another account, I can edit an account number in the current year's chart of accounts anytime I wish. Okay. The same is true for, say, deleting accounts, for example. If, sometimes depending on the account, how often we use it, there might be more options in that menu when we say right-click over it, and let's say right over click. Yeah, notice here we choose to right-click over handbells. Notice it says Add Expense Account, Add an Expense Subledger to handbells expense, Delete handbells, or Edit. So here, if if I've got just a couple of changes to make to like specific single accounts, I might just come into my chart of accounts and do all of this editing right here on the Tree View tab. Okay, not nowhere else. So let's say I don't want to delete, I don't want to use don't have any need for my handbells expense anymore. I can simply just right-click over the account, choose Delete. It wouldn't permit me to delete it if it didn't meet the conditions for deletion. So there's no current year activity for the handbells expense. Of course, expenses don't have beginning balances, so I'm permitted to delete it. So I can just right-click, choose click Delete. It says, are you sure you want to delete handbells expense? Click Yes, and that account now is gone. Okay. There's a lot you can do at the chart of accounts and specifically on the Tree View for accounts. Okay. Again, most notably, as we've seen here, editing the account name or the account number. The same would be true if I were, say, to go to my funds here. So let's say, one of the things that I like to show folks is I deal with this a fair amount on other support calls. Notice I've added a fund here called test fund. Okay, it's right here, 380-100. Doesn't have a balance. Okay, no activity for the current year. Yet when I go over to my tree view and I right click over it, notice it says add a fund, add income or expense account to test fund, or edit fund. It won't let me delete the account. Well, the main reason why is funds are dealt with differently. Okay, income and expenses are linked to funds. Okay, so we have to deal with the income and expenses that are linked to my test fund before I can then delete the actual test fund itself. Okay, and so I've been advised that we don't need that fund. So what if I don't want to delete my test fund income or my test fund expense? Okay, well, we can relink those. That again is all part of changing your accounts. The linking of income and expenses to their respective funds is very, very important. So here I find my test fund income. Here it is. Oh, notice over here on the left I have that highlighted. Now if I steer my focus or click back over under my detail tab, right down here at the bottom right of my detail tab, I have the menu called fund, and it currently shows test fund in that list. So if I don't want to delete my test fund income account, okay, I can now just click the down arrow here and say, oh yeah, I want this test fund income monies in future to go into my general operating fund. So I just choose general operating fund, and I've now just changed that linking of that income account over to my general operating fund. All of my current year's income transactions that may have been posted to that test fund income will now automatically shift over to my general operating fund. Okay, so let's say I want to do the same thing. Now we're going to say we're going to delete our test fund expense. So here now we're going to go down to our test fund. Notice there's only shows an expense. We right click on it, choose delete. Now, when my test fund shows no income or expenses, now notice that when I right click over that, I can choose delete. I've dealt with the income and expenses that are linked to that fund, therefore I can delete it. So now I just click delete. Okay? The changing the linking of our income and our expense accounts is a really, really common need. Okay? The need for us to be able to be able to change that linking at will is really, really important. Right now here at the chart of accounts window on our detail tab, so if I choose, say, let's go down and choose another expense like my nursery expense. So right here, this is the only place where after I add or add a new account to the chart of accounts, that after I've specifically income and expenses, this is the only place that I can then change the linking of those income and expenses to a different fund. There's no other place in accounting that allows me to change the linking of income and expenses. Okay, this is a really, really common support call. Let's go ahead and okay, so tree view, really handy for being able to delete maybe a couple or a handful of accounts, not terribly many. Okay, but let's say you do have a number of accounts you want to get through. Maybe you're wanting to open up your new year and you want to delete a bunch of accounts simultaneously. We go up to manage accounts, accounts plus minus. Let's say we choose expenses. Here now, if I maximize this window, I have expense accounts for main fund or current fund general operating. Notice down here all of my expenses down the left side for my general operating fund. So notice here I have several check boxes, the delete column on the left side, right here, delete, and I have several accounts that allow me to check that. So I can just, if I go, oh yeah, well these are accounts I haven't used this year and I don't need them. Okay, so if I just go down the list and check the accounts that will permit me to, the others like that have NA for one reason or another won't let me delete it. They probably have current year activity. But once I've gone down the list, and check the boxes, I can simply click delete selected accounts. And it allows me to go through, and I have to click one by one, click yes. But there we go. We've just deleted, 5, 6 accounts all in one location. Okay. The system knows when it'll permit you to delete accounts and when you cannot, okay? If I went, oh, I shouldn't have deleted my supply pass-through expense account, I can just come back into my main expense accounts here, type in supply pass-through, go ahead and key in a new expense account number and click add account. And there it is. I've just added my supply pass-through back to my chart of accounts, or whatever the number was, okay? So that's the nice thing, is the system won't let us delete accounts that we simply can't, that have an audit trail we have to maintain for the current year, okay? So if you're wanting to delete a number of accounts here, I go, okay, I've done my maintenance for my operating fund. I can now choose, say, my building fund. And then you can go down the list and delete those accounts. And the same is true when I say go up to income accounts, or any of them. They're all, the delete function here is dealt with and done the same exact way. Okay. So we can delete accounts at the chart of accounts under tree view. We can also add and delete accounts here under this manage accounts and accounts plus minus. Okay. Ultimately, if you have really a broad change to your chart of accounts that need to be made, we're going to probably recommend backing up your data, then go up to special functions here and use this function right up here at the very top called renumber chart of, or change account number structure right here. This is your renumber chart of accounts for all of your accounts. Okay, so if I click on change account number structure, it opens up and pops up and says, hey, I have exclusive access to this window. Now here, we notice on the upper left here, it has two different things. It has account number before renumbering, after renumbering. So the line is drawn right here. So I can just click in these accounts here and make the changes to a number of accounts simultaneously, remembering to click save here in the upper right corner when I'm finished. Okay, this would be definitely a process that I would make a backup of my accounting data before I went in and started making changing the entire chart of accounts. This is also the screen where in the upper right corner we could choose change structure. So let's say my 1, 2, 3, 6 digit account number structure wasn't good enough or wasn't enough for me. I needed to change that. I would simply click on change structure. It opens up and says use account numbers. What do I want my new numbers to be? Let's say I want to put in a new another 7th digit in there in the middle. I simply click OK. Now notice my 6 digits are on my current before numbering, and my account number after renumbering is including that additional digit. It's adding a trailing 0 into all of my accounts. Okay, I could leave it at that, but I could also then go in and change and renumber all of my accounts if I wish. Again, nothing is saved here under my renumber chart of accounts until I click the save button here at the top right. However, in the meantime, for the purposes of our webinar today, I'm simply going to click cancel. Okay. Very quickly here before we wrap up about this, we've only got about another minute or so, 2 minutes here. The very final step, if the renumber chart of accounts won't work, and completely changing your account number structure and even perhaps changing large numbers of accounts, or editing individual accounts won't work for you. Generally, and this is one of the very last steps or last things that I resort to for users when they call me or are telling me that their chart of accounts isn't working and they need to make changes, is when we go up to special functions at the top and manage years. If I go set up new accounting year and I were to say set up 2016, notice here I do have an option in here where it says create empty chart of accounts. Essentially, I would be telling the system that I'm drawing a line in time between my 2015 accounting year and its chart of accounts, and I want to set up and subsequently enter an entirely, completely brand new chart of accounts from the ground up. Again, this is generally I don't recommend this other than under very rare and extreme circumstances where the user believes that simply the chart of accounts, their current chart of accounts is unsalvageable for one reason or another. So again, just keep in mind in the back of your mind there that if you're really in dire straits and you're of the mind that your chart of accounts isn't working for you at all, you can, when you open up and set up your next accounting year, you can tell the system, I want to create the line in time and create an entirely brand new chart of accounts with a new account number structure to start the next accounting year. If, again, folks, you have questions about this or you're unclear about it or you're unsure, call us at technical support. We're happy to talk with any of you about it. I review charts of accounts on a regular basis. I generally ask some questions. I'm looking at it from an outsider's perspective, and so I look at it differently than you do, but I'm always happy to offer my insight on it. My personal belief is there's generally always something salvageable about every chart of accounts. Okay? We can, even with entering a new chart of accounts, use the match accounts feature here to match accounts from an old, another numbering system from one year to match them with the accounts that they were represented by in the prior accounting year. So there is, again, as I pointed out, a good deal of flexibility here. So, all right, that's my topic here. So again, folks, if you have to leave, by all means, I'm wrapped up with what I'm talking about here. If you need to leave, please click the File, Exit, Leave Webinar option here. I'm going to see what questions I've got here. Let's see. If you've got questions, please type those into me if you wish. I'm the only one here today. No one else is answering questions for me. So let me see here. Let's start at the edge. How can we print our chart of accounts with the tree funds? Oh, that's a good one, Mary. Probably the best report for that would be under Reports and Export, Financial in the top left, Fund Activity Report. Here we would say include accounts with zero balance. I would probably, we're going to leave it as the detailed fund activity report. And then I'm going to go over to my columns tab and I'm going to remove my amount fields, leaving just my account number and my account name. Click on print. And here is my chart of accounts, or my fund activity report with, say, for my general operating fund with its no balances, and then all of the income accounts, then subsequently expense accounts for my general operating fund. Then as I move down the report and in the list, it shows me all of the more expenses, then it shows me the end of the fund, and then it moves into my building fund, etc. That's the best report for that, Mary, that shows the funds in their respective accounts. I mean, Kitty's asking this, the debt deletion does not impact previous years. Correct. That's absolutely right, Kitty. Deleting accounts in the current year's chart of accounts does not affect those same accounts in prior years. Lenita's asking, how do you handle memorial accounts? That's a good question. We have an example here, Lenita, on our chart of accounts where we do have, under our funds, we have a main ledger memorial fund under which we have the separate memorials. Each one of these funds has their own income and expenses, but you could handle it through, it really depends on if you've got balances to carry over from one year to the next. Some churches will just set up one main memorial fund with different income and expenses for each one of the individuals. But if you have balances that are carried into those memorial funds from year to year, you really do need the separate funds. Tenny's asking, does making an account name change or an account number change affect comparative financial reports? Yeah, Tenny, I think that does. You would probably have to go up to, again, you'd probably be advised to go up to, if the name changes, that may not be so. If the number does, then definitely. But yeah, you may need to go, after changing the account number, probably need to go up to this match accounts feature and match the accounts across years. You bet. Lou, very happy to help, of course. I'm glad that you learned some new stuff. Good. How do you make sure that new accounts are showing up on the treasurer's report? Well, Mandy, that's probably, when you go to, say, manage accounts, accounts plus minus, and the new version 17, as you're adding the account, you definitely want to make sure that you're adding the account to its proper subtotal right here, and when you're adding the account. That's new in version 17. Before that, if you're using an earlier version, you'd actually have to go to subtotals to do that. Yeah, Lenita, each one of those memorial funds would have to have a way of crediting income to them and expenses to spend money out of them. So yeah, each would need their own income and expense. Yeah, Connie, I'm sorry that there's going to, please call us on support when dealing up or setting up sub accounts. I'm sorry, that's not a topic for today. Please call me or call one of our other technicians on there. We may have another webinar on setting up sub accounts. I'm sorry, but if you could, please call us on that. We might, again, I might have another webinar on sub-accounts. We may actually have a movie already of a previously recorded webinar on setting up sub-accounts and sub-funds. In the current version, we are able to add a subledger to ledger accounts. Is there a way to add an additional level in a subledger? Jane is asking. I can't answer that, Jane. No. The system only permits us one level deep of subledgers. Good questions. You're welcome, Lenita. Thank you. I'm just kind of waiting to see if other folks are popping in or typing in other questions there before I end the webinar for everybody. Oh, you're most welcome. I always hope that these webinars are helpful for folks. All right. Yes, thank you. Thank you to everyone. I'm getting lots of thanks. I'm very glad to help, of course. Again, Connie, please give me a call about those sub-accounts or call us about that. Our technicians will be glad to help. Myself or one of our other accounting technicians will be happy to discuss that with you. Yeah, the sub-accounts is just, it's a very detailed topic, and there's simply not enough time on the webinar today to discuss that. So, okay, I'm going to go ahead and end the webinar for everybody. Again, please check the user group webinar page at our website for the current list of user group webinar events. We hope to see you at another event. Again, we hope it's been helpful, and we look forward to seeing you at another Church Windows user group webinar event. Thank you all so much. Talk to you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.